Hello there, kia ora. Looks like this year we can expect ramped up attempts, especially from the far right, to launder their shitty views and try to control public narratives through mainstream media. And we can see it happening in real time this week, with it becoming really obvious which specific outlets are willing to clean the shit off their friends' dirty undies. There's clear examples of this happening this week, like this one. Old man who should have retired long ago stokes racism to win votes from people who voted for him last time because of their racism. There's no mention of how he and his party pushed racist rhetoric in the past, threatening to bury Māori at the last election. This line of media coverage from our most right-wing mainstream media sanitizes that history of clear, blatant racist decisions and policies. At least Stuff framed it more around how racist modern New Zealand First is as a party. But the big example at the moment is the sewage spill in the harbour south of Wellington from the Moa Point sewage plant. It seems that due to a blocked pipe in the middle of a massive weather event, an overflow pipe was seemingly blocked, leading to a flood in the facility, which has led to 70 million litres of untreated human sewage being dumped in the water. The specific causes are still under investigation. For context, that's 28 Olympic-sized swimming pools of human shit, and there's currently investigations into exactly what happened. Now, chances are kinda high, though, that it has something to do with aging infrastructure being involved. It was identified as an issue back in 2021, and because the facility is run by a private business, it's not incentivized to upgrade and save costs. Years of doing this around the country led to the situation where the government eventually had to step in, and that's part of what got Three Waters started. Now, Three Waters was made contentious by racist hard-right groups who used the co-governance element of the model to push against the changes, which would have seen work already started on our aging water infrastructure if we hadn't changed government in 2023, something that happened because some people were driven by having that irrational fear of co-governance vilified by candidates, some now MPs, and their proxies all over the country, particularly in rural areas where the messaging was amplified by organisations like Groundswell. So, many candidates in the 2022 and 2025 local elections ran on anti-Māori, anti-co-governance platforms, demanding the status quo on water, which is record underinvestment to keep rates low, using arguments pushed by groups like the Taxpayers Union and NZCPR. And NZCPR this week put out a press release bringing into question a 2021 Wellington Council meeting where decisions on both cycle lanes and water infrastructure was made, deliberately framing it as a council which made a choice to spend money on a bike lane, which is obviously woke and bad, and also the press's favourite big bad, or water infrastructure. Now, funding for both of these by the time it reaches council decision-making is clearly divested. There's not a table with a pot of cash going, you get this and you get that. They're looking at individual budgets for specific areas of infrastructure. But it makes a better story if you make it out like the council literally divvying out coins into the hands of greedy cyclists demanding, just let me check my notes here, safe ways to commute across the city that they live in. Clearly they're monsters. Anyway, the group that put this forward has clear links with the hard right. NZCPR is made up of former ACT MPs. The Bassett, Brash and Hyde page it was on was also, well, clearly linked to former ACT MPs, one who runs an anti-Māori astroturf and one who's a radio host on a disinformation network that's known to platform neo-Nazis. Other contributors and admin on their site include racist Twitter users and the Free Speech Union mouthpiece who also worked with the anti-Māori AstroTurf group to put up those billboards that use an image of a kuia against her will to argue against Māori wards. They've certainly got form, and the Herald ran with the narrative that they presented. Ryan Bridge framing it directly as an either-or choice to Tamitha Paul, who pushed back hard. It's almost like they picked the Wahine Māori on council both in 2021 and 2022 to ask pointed questions to vilify bike lanes and things that are woke, but now to a wider audience who aren't aware that the Herald is owned by a Canadian billionaire who funded hard-right media and disinformation spreaders during the height of the pandemic, who took over the Herald because he thought it was too left-wing. Mainstream media has begun to take the narrative of a bunch of clearly far-right voices with highly partisan viewpoints and a long history of race baiting and rage farming and normalized their narrative. So, a major issue exacerbated in part because of the racist rhetoric of the far right that was sanitized by media and pushed by racists is now being presented as being caused by the people those players deliberately vilified to begin with. Also being sanitized and presented by the media and again being pushed by racists, as you can see in the comments on their now hard right website where they have left the comments on. And these are well-funded, well-connected groups who clearly have the ear of our media, who clearly have the resources to keep doing this, and clearly have a base audience happy to blame everything on whatever they're told is woke, Māori, or scary by rich people keen on manipulating as many people as possible to sow discord in an election year to get what they want. So, we need to keep vigilant. There's months until the election, and these well-resourced ACT Party rejects from the early 2000s have plenty of time to do this over and over until then. Hey, thanks for sticking around till the end of the video. While you're here, why not hit that like button or share the video or even subscribe to the channel. You could even become a paid YouTube member so you can see things released in advance, you get access to some exclusive content, and like all these awesome people, you get to have your name at the end of the credits as well.